Some people have the belief that you should put one property per LLC. I disagree with them, and I will fight them to the death on that. They are wrong, 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 wrong. But at the
Okay, well, challenge accepted. I'd be happy to talk to you about that, Pace. Tom here, FlipAnything USA. So today we're going to talk about Pace Morby. I saw this little video. People ask me all the time, should you have an LLC before you buy a property? I don't think so. I don't think it's necessary. You don't need an LLC when you buy a property. I'll tell you that right now. Now, he's talking about taking properties subject to, where they're deeded over to your name, or in this case, over to your LLC. I can see a reason for doing that, and I'm going to talk about why. I can see why people would do that and the risks. So I've been buying and selling real estate for 41 years. In fact, one of the very first properties I bought was in a wraparound, or what you call an all-inclusive trust deed. Something that also can trigger an alienation clause, which is a lot of this subject to stuff is subject to an alienation clause, to be quite honest. It only takes somebody dropping a dime on you and telling the bank what's going on, and you can be faced with a problem. We're going to get into it. Chris, you're on camera now.
Hey, I'm excited to learn a little bit more about the lingo of subject to and wraparound mortgages.
Yeah, it's not something I've mess with because I don't have to mess with it. It's really kind of the lower food chain for doing stuff, to be honest. And it's a fine place to start. And I'll talk about why I feel that way.
It's the best thing I ever did.
This is Pace Morby. Should you get an LLC for real estate business, for your real estate business? And hey, if you just got here, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, but mainly just subscribe to the channel. I promise you'll learn a lot. I'll never steer you wrong. I've been doing this a very long time. I know there's a lot of fake gurus and a lot of bullshit out there. You're not going to get any of that with me. It's going to be all straight talk. Also, you can see by the surrounding overlay, I've got a weekly webinar. Urge you to get in, sign up for my free webinar, and it is 100% free. There's also a mentorship survey you can sign up for. That's over here on my left. You sign up for that. I'll take a look at it. I'll give you a reply back. We can always have a couple minutes on the phone. Won't charge you a penny for that. And to be honest, I don't let everybody in my mentorship, but I'll certainly give you my 2 cents whether I think you belong or not. It is valuable information. I got the smartest students in the internet, probably the highest money making. I think I have more testimonials than anyone. If you get a chance, you could also take a look at the website real quick. Urge you to go there, FlipAnythingUSA.com, and take the mentorship survey right here, or up over here. You can't barely see it, but right up there. And if you look at that corner right up there, it says webinar. You can click on that. Sign up for this. It's just very simple. It's just fill it out, your name, email, your phone if you want, and I'll send you the link. You don't have to put your phone in there. This is strictly about getting you information, showing you how I made my fortune and how you can do the same. We've got a lot of testimonials now of people that have done exactly that, so it's really worthwhile taking a look at. So let's get into this, and also be sure to look at these. If you take a look, you'll see these are all testimonials on the FlipAnything USA website. Many millionaires now, just in the last 2 or 3 years. This gentleman here's got $4 million of the property and about $1 million in debt. Others here, $700,000, $1 million here. This guy's made over $1 million here. But anyways, go check those out when you get a chance. Let's get back here and talk about the main subject of this video, Pace Morby. I don't know Pace, never talked to him. This is the only video I've ever watched of his. Wade Cook was like supposedly the king of creative financing way back in the 80s. Let's watch this and I will comment. And if there's any slow spots here, I'll probably fast forward through it.
A great question from our Creative Finance Facebook group. Eric Ballman asked a great question. The question is, are you guys signing your sub-2 agreements in the name of a trust, or are you signing and putting them in an LLC? Here's the answer to the question. If you guys look right here, Saguaro Cactus Holdings LLC is the name of my LLC, or one of our many LLCs. We usually put 10 properties per LLC. Some people have the belief that you should put one property per LLC. I disagree with them, and I will fight them to the death on that. They are wrong, 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 wrong. But at the
Okay, well, challenge accepted. I'd be happy to talk to you about that, Pace. He is wrong, but he's not completely wrong. Depends on the value of the property. You don't need to put each property into an LLC, but if you have properties where you have equity of millions of dollars. Listen, the whole purpose of having an individual LLC is to contain that asset. An LLC or limited partnership, it doesn't matter. Both instruments essentially do the same thing. I have both. I have about 20 of them. I hold multiple properties in some, depending on the value of the properties, and I have some that are completely individually held. There's other reasons for it too. I mean, like my partnerships consist of me, myself, and I, and my wife and kids. That's it. I have one partner on another property, about a $2.5 million piece of land here last year. He's a buddy of mine, and we're going to have some fun with that. Let's hear this one more time.
Some people have the belief that you should put one property per LLC. I disagree with them, and I will fight them to the death on that. They are wrong. But
Okay, well, challenge accepted. I'd be happy to talk to you about that, Pace. But in the context of what he's talking with subject to, a little bit different, I think. But I would argue with you that whether it's an LTD, limited partnership, or an LLC, there is definitely a reason to put individual properties in LLCs. Now, he can put 10 of a subject to property into an instrument like an LLC because there's really no equity in it, right? Subject to is you're taking over somebody's deed. They're deeding the property to you, and the bank's got a big old lien against it. So there's very little to lose. You could put 10 properties in one LLC, and you might not even have $100,000 there. You know what I mean? I mean, the reason people usually fall into these subject to situations is because sometimes they're upside down, or there's just so very little equity, and they just want to get out of it. And what that does is that creates an opportunity for somebody that doesn't have good credit, that can't qualify for a loan. They can essentially take over this asset. Now,
and to interrupt real quick, the investors, they're looking for the subject to deals because they are wanting to assume that note at a lower interest rate than what they could get at market value.
There could be a number of reasons.
Okay.
And there could be but there's one. But let's talk about this for a second. You have an LLC. Let's just say somebody, has a property. They're not making their payments. The property's worth $300,000. And they owe $250 on it, and they're depressed, and they're strung out on drugs, or maybe they got a divorce and they just don't give a shit anymore. A number of reasons people get depressed and do things like that. So either way, they're falling behind. Maybe they can't even make the payments. So somebody comes to the rescue and says, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll take this property subject to. I'll go ahead and take the property, you deed it over in my name, and either I'll give you something, or I'll give you nothing, or I'll get your credit caught up, I'll get the payments caught up, save your credit, and I'll hold it in this LLC until we pay it off.
Basically, so that person doesn't get foreclosed on.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. It could be just somebody. I mean, usually I think it's kind of those circumstances. I mean, otherwise, listen, if you have a property of $50,000 equity, maybe just say, I'll just put it on the market and sell it. I mean, a lot of people sometimes by the time they get it sold, they're negative 10 grand out of pocket. Maybe they don't have that, so it's kind of like they're kind of feel stuck.
Right.
And so unless the bank wants to take a hit and do a short sale, that could happen too. But the bottom line is, let's keep watching pace here, and we'll come back and I'll go through this whole thing a bit more. By the way, if you just got here, get my book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. It's been a bestseller on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. Check out the reviews. You'll be glad you did. It's a great place to begin in real estate. It'll shortcut you a lot. I've been doing this for 41 years. Check it out.
Hey, yo, stop and listen. Time is on a mission to eliminate all of the snake oil and the fake gurus that fake y'all. He'll show you how to build an empire, starting with nothing but a desire. All you really need is a good mentor, not a used car bullshit. With time, you'll learn to crush it. Investing like Warren Buffett. With real estate, you cannot procrastinate. Everyone who hesitates is left at the starting gate. Hey, yo, so don't delay and join today. The mentorship and flip anything. USA, go.
Let's watch pace again.
At the end of the day, it comes down to your own personal risk aversion. So Saguaro Cactus Holdings LLC, why do I buy in an LLC? Some people believe that if I buy a house subject to, right? So here's the house, I've got a seller, and the seller owes a debt to Wells Fargo, right? Wells Fargo is owed $300,000, let's say. And then the owner also has this thing called a deed. That's the ownership rights is the deed. That owner actually has the right and the ability to transfer that deed into my name, which is cool. okay? You can do it 3 different ways. You can transfer a deed into your personal name, which you should never own real estate in your personal name. I know there's a lot of people out there going, oh my gosh, I own my own personal house in my personal name. It's not the end of the world, guys, if you own a property in your personal home and you live in it, because you don't have tenants in there that could potentially sue you for slipping on ice or something along those lines. But if you are renting the house...
And listen, I can tell you, I bought the first probably 50 properties I bought in my name. You have a property in your own personal name, you should. And listen, number one, if you have a home, own the home in your name, 100%. Pace may be just trying to be pushing LLCs. He's got a sponsor down there linked going to a guy that does LLCs. He may get a kickback. I got a feeling that may be where we're going with some of this, but I could talk to you about this stuff, Pace, if like you had proposed. I'd be happy to do that. Bottom line is, when it comes to LLCs, there's no reason, to get an LLC before you buy a property. Now, if you're gonna play kind of roulette or risky stuff where you're gonna have somebody deed a property into your name, then I would put it in an LLC too, just because it's got cancer already. There's a bit of cancer there already, because you're doing something that can trigger an alienation clause. All the banks, unless you have it set up specifically where something is assumable, just about every note you see today, every deed, the bank is going to have an alienation clause, which is a due on sale clause. That will be triggered. It says, when you transfer this, we have the right to call the note. And okay, so and the reason, if the bank sees you transfer a deed into a totally different person's name, that will that will be a red flag to the bank. They'll go, whoa, wait a minute.
And they'll say, we want our money.
We want our money immediately.
Yeah.
So I think that's the whole deal with this, and I'm not going to call it a scam, but it is a little bit scammy, because it's really goes against the constraints that are with. But that's fine. If you want to roll the dice, that's fine. In that situation, you would put it in an LLC or a limited family. We call it an FLP. There's LP, limited party. We call it a family limited partnership too. And it's exactly the same thing. It just sounds nice. But if you do get in hot water and there's a trouble, you don't want to sue a family limited partnership. You know what I mean? That's really why people call them FLPs and LPs. Doesn't matter. Same kind of instrument. Has all the rights to hold a piece of property. In a situation like this, if you're going to take a property subject to, I personally wouldn't screw with it myself, but if you do, it will go into, you put it in an LLC, and like I say, you can put 10 of them in there, because there's not going to be a lot of equity. You put 10 properties in there with whatever, and every one of them has a $250,000 lien holder against it. You know what I mean? You got very little risk there. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. Not a big deal. So we'll keep watching.
House or Airbnb, don't ever own the property in your personal name. When we buy house subject to, do you think I transfer it in my personal name? The answer is absolutely not.
Wait, did he say when they transfer or when they buy? Let's hear it again.
When we buy house subject to, do you think I transfer it in my personal name? The answer is absolutely not.
Yeah, it's because he's really not exactly buying it. You know what I mean?
It's a transfer of ownership.
It's a transfer. It's really not a very clean transfer that you're violating, that the bank can call the note. Now, the reason you would, if you're going to play this game, if you're going to put it in,
I don't want to play this game.
Well, you know what I mean. If when you're starting out, you do a lot of things. I've made houses into duplexes that really shouldn't have been duplexes. I've done some things to make more money when I was younger. It is what it is. Basically, the bank can call the note because you did make a transfer. Now, I understand how you could weasel this or wiggle this out a little bit and make some room. What you could do is you create an LLC. Let's just say you're in trouble. You have to, I'll say, Chris, I'm going to buy your house subject to. So we're going to deed it into this LLC that I own and control, but we're going to make you a 1% partner. So we can legitimately say that you
still own
it, which it's okay to. Banks, I've done this at least 30, 40 times, where I bought property and then I transferred it into an LLC and I have a mortgage. The bank doesn't care, doesn't even bully.
But you kept the other person as a 1%?
No, there was no person.
Right, okay.
No, I'm saying I paid cash for houses.
Right.
And just transferred them into an LLC. But I've also bought houses with, 75% mortgages, whatever, and transferred them into my LLC. Bank doesn't even blink.
Yep.
Because they understand that, listen, here's the legitimate reason for putting things in an LLC. Anyways, the most legitimate and accepted is that for estate planning. Okay, I have a huge estate. my properties go into, they're all, everything but my personal residence is owned, my personal residence is owned by me. And there's a reason for doing that too.
Right.
Your homestead is pretty much bulletproof,
right,
because it's homesteaded.
Right.
You can, they'll take it when you die. So different subject altogether, but the bottom line is it's a legitimate to legitimately buy property, have a lien on it from your bank, move it into an LLC or a limited partnership, because for estate planning. So in other words, kids under 18, they can't own property in any state in the USA that I'm aware of. But if you're over 18, you can. You have 4 little ones like I had. My kids, they've been having tax returns since they were 2 years old, because I gift them percentages of my LLCs that own property. And every year I can gift them more, and then I can sell that property within that LLC and make a big profit on that property and buy another one. And so I'm growing their wealth. I'm growing their nest egg. And at the same time, in essence, I'm not even going to say that I'm transferring wealth to them, but I'm transferring some wealth to them in the form that I'm gifting them for percentages of the property. And then I'm growing it. Then I'm growing the wealth. But
I have a question on this subject, though.
Sure.
Exact same what you were just talking about. So you said, hey, sometimes I buy it in my personal name, but that I'll transfer it immediately to my LLC. Why not just buy it initially with the LLC?
And it depends. When I was younger, I always had the fear that the person that I'm buying from, if they see, whatever.
They might think it's a big corporation trying to buy the land.
Well, not corporate, yeah, but they may think it's not just good old Tom they're selling to.
Right.
So I used to worry about that more before, but now anymore I buy stuff and I buy straight into the LLC or the limited partnership, because I just say it doesn't even matter, to be quite honest, because when I go into contract, it'll say just Tom McKay.
Right.
And when we go to close, I say, we're going to close this in this name, because I can assign it to another name. Nobody's going to balk or care. They can't even legitimately fight it legally, because they're still selling it.
And I did that. And I did that for the first time on my recent property.
Yeah, remember? I remember telling you. Don't worry about it.
It was in my name, me and my wife's name.
Yeah.
And I do have an LLC. I just had that set up. I've done a couple properties, whatever. But I said, hey, when we close, I'm actually going to close it in my LLC name. And the owner's like, that's fine. Do I still get my money? And I was like, oh yeah, you still get money.
It does. And nobody, and if there's agents involved, the agents don't care. They just want their commission anyways.
Right.
They're like, yeah, it's fine. Okay. And it is fine.
Oh, he was saying you shouldn't even have that in your name.
Oh, you shouldn't take any property in your name. Yeah.
Right.
And listen, I'm saying you can buy everything in your name unless you have warrants or liens and all kinds of shit going on. Yeah, but it's okay to buy it in your name. It's actually sometimes easier, quicker, more convenient. Sometimes you buy a property and you don't even have an LLC prepared and ready, and it's not that big a deal. You buy it in your name, and he's talking about slip and fall and this sort of thing. That's really not that big a deal, because you have insurance.
You have insurance.
Yeah, you have insurance for that.
Umbrella policies.
Yeah, and believe me, I know people that have been sued for millions over and beyond what their insurance would cover. But it wasn't in a little house and that sort of thing. But if you're doing Airbnbs and that sort of thing where it's risky, you're bringing in new people every week. A lot of Airbnbs are used for partying. I can imagine how many teeth are sitting on the patio of somebody's place when they get drunk and fall down, that sort of thing. So I'm not saying Pace is totally wrong with any of this stuff. Right. But you know what? Even a recent video I just did on Ben Mala. And Ben Mala will tell you, put each property in an LLC, and I
always keep everything in a single member, separate LLC, and that gives you some protection. So, it's up to you. As long as you got liability insurance, if something happens on that property, you should be covered, but it's just another way of protecting your ass, basically.
Ben also, though, Ben's not doing subject twos that I'm aware of. I can't even imagine that he would. Right. But what he is doing is he's buying significantly large properties with significant equity, and that's why I have a lot of individual LLCs for individual properties that have, several $1 million.
Sure.
Let's keep watching.
People will put it in a trust. Why would they put it into a trust? Well, because there's half the creative finance world believes, which they are wrong, that if I transfer ownership from the seller into a trust, it will avoid the due on sale clause, which we'll have to do due on sale clause. clause in a longer video another day. I have answered the due on sale clause question in previous Sunday service episodes. Jesus, our editor, will link that down below, all about due on sale clause. Okay, so the people are definitely afraid of the due on sale clause. It's like the creative finance boogeyman. And so what happens is people are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do subject to because the due on sale clause is going to come and eat me up. Well, they believe that because of the Garn-St. Germain Act back in the 80s,
he's kind of doing a Graham Stephan thing.
Oh my gosh,
the property's going to cost $400,000 and the mortgage payment's going to be $2,700 a month.
You buy a house in a trust, then it does not trigger the due on sale clause, and you would be 100% incorrect. Any transfer, doesn't matter, any transfer, during the Garn-St. Germain Act specifically says it needs to be a family planning trust. What people are typically doing is they're doing a land trust, thinking that if I have a land trust, which is not a family planning trust, I can transfer the deed into a land trust, and that will avoid the due on sale clause. You are wrong. Come at me, bro. You are 100% wrong. The land trust will not avoid the due on sale clause. What I do is we transfer all of our sub-2s into an LLC. And then what we do from that point is each one of our LLCs typically owns 10, sometimes upwards of 20 properties. We then go create another LLC. We have 10 properties. And then we create another LLC and we own 10 properties, so on and so on and so on. And so sometimes I'll give examples on this YouTube channel of actual properties that I own. And then I'll go to the recorder's office and I'll show you guys, here's the recording number and here's the deed. And I actually own this property, right? It's really funny, actually. I had this guy post this thing about me on Facebook because he's a creative finance educator. And he doesn't understand how this game of influencing and collaboration works. What he was doing is taking shots at me saying, oh, Pacey's just another guru. He doesn't actually own properties. I'm like, really? This is my personal home right here. You can look up the address. You can see I'm the owner. I bought this $3 million home subject to. You're probably living in your mom's trailer.
He should rap about what he knows, like living in his mom's trailer and eating peanut butter sandwiches, you know what I'm saying?
And you have no ownership, but that's okay. You can take shots at me. The challenge with that is that you and I will never collaborate. So you're missing out on some amazing things. But guys, on this YouTube channel, I actually show you ownership and deed transfers and recording numbers and all of those magical things. And you will see every single time that I do it, it's in an LLC. You'll never see me do it in my personal name. Each one of these LLCs, you'll see dozens and dozens and dozens.
So to what he's saying, and I feel bad now saying kind of trashing the LLC or the subject to stuff. I guess he does a lot of it.
Your first deal you did a subject to?
The first deal I kind of did a subject to, and what I'll tell you is the property that I bought, I'll even just show it to you. So look, I was 19 years old. This is a property I bought 41 years ago. Here it is. First property I bought, 19 years old. And this is a lot of interesting stuff attached with this, actually, also. And there's some issues with, okay, so this is a property I bought. I was 19 years old. This is a 5,900 square foot building. It's basically, I think it was about a 3,400 square foot metal building here at the rear with a stucco frame and stucco, building in the front. And this is one of the properties, this is the property really that really got me excited about real estate. And I put in these windows, I put in these doors, I put in that man's art. I did a lot of stuff to this. There's a roll-up door here. Anyhow, it was a cool property, and I bought it. I was 19. I had no credit. I bought it from a gentleman. I can't even tell you the exact history, okay, exact from the people that owned it before me. But when I bought it owner financed, and the note that I was paying on was what you call a wraparound, or that's a term that we used in the 80s, meaning you have a note that is wrapped around others. So in this case, or the technical name for it is an all-inclusive trust deed. So you have an all-inclusive trust deed that basically wraps, in this case, 4 others. So what happened was there was 4 other individuals that were owed money on this.
That are all still paying mortgages?
Somewhere, somebody, or maybe this last guy is paying probably so, actually.
Wow.
They might have all been partners on this thing at one time, and they decided to sell it. This is back in 1981 when I bought this. So what happened in this situation is I bought it, I made my payments. I was late almost every month for 2 years because I was struggling. I started a business. That was my cabinet shop. My cabinet shop was in that business. So, like any business, you start, you're struggling, you're trying to get clientele. The great thing about it being owner finance, which you call creative finance, and I've done a lot of creative financing, and you learn a lot about that in my mentorship as well, is what happened was I bought it, and then, things got better. I was buying and selling property, started making a lot of money, and now I had great credit, and it was time to refinance this building. So I refied the building, did the normal thing, got my loan, paid off, went through escrow, paid it off. And about 40 days later, somebody says, "Hey, Tom, everything okay?" And I say, "Yeah, fine, what's up?" And they go, "Well, according to the newspaper, you're in foreclosure." I go, "I'm in foreclosure? What are you talking about? I'm not in foreclosure." He goes, "Well, take a look in the newspaper." And I looked up there, and sure enough, I was being foreclosed upon because this is what happened. When I paid off that note, the title company was supposed to pay a certain amount of money to each of the individuals. All of the individuals that had a lien on this thing, basically.
Everything that was wrapped up.
Everything that was wrapped. Well, what happened was, and I remember the guy was owed $17,000. The guy that didn't get paid. So everybody got paid. One guy got paid this guy's $17,000. So one guy got overpaid $17,000. One guy didn't get paid at all, and the deal closed. I had title insurance, so I was safe, really. But the title company was dragging their feet. I wrote them a letter and acted like I was CC. There was no email, by the way. I just showed that I was copying and making a letter to my lawyer as well of this thing, and let him know that I would be paying it off, and that the bank would be whole. And this is like me writing the bank, and put a copy over there to Chicago Title. I believe it was Chicago Title, which really I'm the only person I know that's ever had to file a claim against a title company, to be quite honest. So what happened was the title company snapped to, and they sent a notary with a cashier's check to the guy that had that was owed $17,000, and they paid him off that very night that I delivered that letter, and that took care of that. But that is kind of a subject too. Do you get it?
Yeah, I do.
But instead of me assuming 5 notes, what happened is we created one all-inclusive trust deed that I took and agreed to buy, which is the first property I bought. It didn't really look terribly close at anything. To my knowledge, there was no alienation clause within any of them. Back then, there wasn't many of them. In fact, you could buy an FHA loan, a VA loan. You could just assume them. If whatever the balance was on a FHA loan back then,
sure,
you could just assume it was no big deal.
Of LLCs that are different names, and the reason being is because we own hundreds of doors, mobile home parks, Airbnbs, multi-million-dollar homes, all the way down to individual $50,000 homes. So yes, we do transfer the deed, but we do not transfer it into a trust. We utilize LLCs because we know that the Garden-St. Germain Act does not actually work with a land trust. We have actually had the due on sale clause called on us when we were using land trusts, and we go, well, that didn't work. We're just gonna go back to LLCs. Thank you for watching this YouTube video. Hopefully Eric Ballman actually got his answer to his question from the Facebook group. If you guys are not members of that Facebook group, go down below, completely free. My sub-2 students are in there helping people get deals done all over the country, and you can learn how to do way more subject to deals when you're inside of a cool community like Creative Finance with Pace Morby.
Okay.
We'll catch you guys on the next YouTube video.
So that was, an interesting video.
But he's doing hundreds of these into an LLC, so it's not triggering the bank to say, "Oh, I wonder what that's."
Well, because I don't know what he's telling the bank if they ask, but like I said, I've transferred that income is passed through. So when I create an LLC, that's a legitimate family LLC.
Sure.
It's me and my family. No big deal. That the bank is used to it. They don't question it. I've maybe been asked maybe once that I remember discussing it, but it was no big deal. They don't, nothing, no investigation, nothing. They just like, okay. I don't think they can legally do so because if I own and control as an adult the LLC, then transferring it over hasn't changed the ownership. It has, technically it kind of has, but it's understood that I'm still the owner. I'm still, you know what I mean? So I could see that a way that maybe the wiggle room, and maybe Pace, maybe we can talk about it sometime, or maybe this is part of the secrets that he teaches, I don't know. But my guess is that, in my opinion, if you do a transfer into an LLC or anything else, you have transferred the deed, you have violated, you've triggered the clause that would allow them to call it all due. And like he said, when he's put it in a land trust, they've called it all due. He didn't say that they can't do it if he put it in an LLC, and I believe he didn't say that because I'm sure they can do it. Wiggle room might be as if whomever you transfer it from, you put it in an LLC, you structure it such that you have all the control, and they are still on the LLC.
They're part of the LLC.
They become a partner.
Yeah.
They become a partner. Now, they could be the weakest partner, But I mean, the bank could probably make the claim, well, hey, he doesn't own the majority of this. It's transferred.
It just sounds too messy to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to knock it if he's done hundreds of deals like that, but you know,
I'm just saying for my preference. Like,
well, yeah,
as
you
an
would
investor,
pay for it. You would just pay cash for it.
I don't want to.
Why would I? I mean, to me, I mean, like I could see a little bit of advantage maybe doing it right now because it's like if I buy it from you, I'm going to have a 6% interest rate, and you've already got a 3.5 or a 2.6% interest rate. Good job, Pace. I would argue with you about the necessity to hold individual properties in LLCs. And I'll give you a perfect example. The whole reason for having different LLCs to compartmentalize your assets, like Pace had said, if somebody slips and falls and gets hurt and sues, well, you generally have insurance for that. But of course, your insurance may have some workarounds for saying if you're doing an Airbnb, you know, this is on you. You know, they have stuff like that. But the reason you would absolutely should keep properties in an individual LLC, not necessarily in a case where you got a bunch of properties where there's not very much equity. You know, it's just not that big a deal. No bank wants to say, yeah, we're going to foreclose and take over all these notes. And for the equity that's there. It's a very unattractive thing for somebody to go after. But an LLC that has, you know, say a couple $1 million property in it and it's nearly all paid off, now that's ripe. That's, you know, that's something we can, you know, if they can bust it, they'll bust is a term we use in the legal community for, you know, busting a trust, busting an LP to get at what's inside. That is why you don't hold, you know, multiple properties that you have a lot of equity, you know, maybe tens of millions of dollars. It'd be crazy. You put those in different entities so that the worst thing that can happen is they just eat everything that's inside that one LLC, and that's it.
You wouldn't have two $5 million buildings in the same LLC.
No, listen, I wouldn't care, to be honest. I wouldn't care if there was a ton of debt associated with it,
understood,
because there's nothing to lose. I'll give you a real quick example of, and this would maybe make it clear why Pace, I would totally argue with you on this, is I got a buddy that had a property, and he owns a lot of property like me. Might even own as much as I do. I'm not even sure. He's been around 10 years longer than I have, and I've known him for 40 years. That's how long we've been doing business together. Anyways, he had an apartment building. In this apartment building, there was families. There was there was a kid that was seen riding his bicycle, you know, or tricycle around at, you know, 10 o'clock at night. The parents didn't watch this kid very closely. Didn't watch him at all from what it sounded like. Well, come in the morning, the kid's floating face down in the swimming pool.
Oh, gosh.
Somebody grabbed him, pulled him out. They resuscitated him. But the kid is going to need care for the rest of his life. He basically was brain dead, but breathing. And of course, this was my friend. The place was fenced, you know, all that sort of thing. But of course, the argument from a lawyer would be, oh, you should have had a lifeguard there. You know what I mean? So in a situation like this, what happened was he had a decent amount of insurance. He had $2 million, plus he had another maybe $1 million or $2 million. I think he had like $3 million coverage on the building, and he had $2 million umbrellas. So basically, he had $5 million coverage, but they were suing for $7 million. And so he's like, and so now he's worried about losing $2 million equity out of his home or out of the building that he owns, because I mean, it was easily there that much just in his property alone. And so this company's coming after suing you, and they're suing you for $7 million, and you're getting sued for $2 million over and above your coverage, or maybe his umbrellas would fail. Now he's looking at $4 million. So he was very, very concerned. The insurance company was adamant, we're going to fight this to the end. And you know, he's like, yeah, just get them away from me. That's all you care about when you're being sued. He sued. The insurance company indemnified my friend from damages over and above his coverage. So he was covered, but they said, we're going to indemnify you for whatever they get. You know, we're going to indemnify you if it's over and above. They didn't think they would get that much. They didn't think that they would win because of it's because of what I described. The kid wasn't watched and cared for. And what happened was, guess what? They got that whole $7 million in the settlement. My friend was indemnified, so he didn't have to worry about it, but that insurance company paid it. And so that's the scare. But here's the deal. That's why you don't put your properties in.
Multiple properties.
You don't put multiple properties in there, because insurance companies said, well, we're going to defend you, but you're going to be responsible for whatever over $5 million. The reason they would even indemnify him is because they didn't expect that they would have to even pay the $3 million, because they didn't feel that, they feel there's such negligence on the parents' part. But it was a bad gamble for the insurance
And if they say
company.
something like that, you better get that in writing.
Well, yeah. But so you can see, like I say, just imagine if you had 2 properties and you had $7 million equity, and between the two, and now you're just a right.
I mean, what a kick!
cherry
What
to
a
be
kick
picked.
in the stomach to have to start over at that point.
Yeah. Believe me, he looked like he'd been kicked in the stomach for a few months. So listen, if you got here, please hit that subscribe button. Like I say, I've been investing in real estate since I was 19 years old. Made tens of millions of dollars. I was a millionaire when I was 27, and that's back in the 80s too. Time flies, and life is a lot easier with money. It just makes everything easier to pay for tuition for your kids. I have 4 kids, tuitions, college. I buy buildings and houses. I pay cash, and it's all because of real estate.
Yo, stop and listen. Time is on a mission to eliminate all the snake oil and the fake gurus that fake y'all. He'll show you how to build an empire, starting with nothing but a desire. All you really need is a good mentor, not a used car bullshit. With time, you'll learn to crush it. Investing like Warren Buffett. With real estate, you cannot procrastinate. Everyone who hesitates is left at the starting gate. Hey, yo, so don't delay and join today. The mentorship and flip anything. USA, go.